think I have to agree.
This this is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are on May the 25th, 2023, and celebrating the 25th anniversary of a film I saw in the theater when it came out, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And I've got another version of it here too. It's got loads of extras on it, but I got in one of my other bins here somewhere, but it's like a double disc version of it. It's got even commentary by Hunter S. Thompson himself on it. But this is the regular Blu-ray version, and I saw this in theaters, and what's amazing to me, the film was a flop when it came out, but like The Big Lebowski, gained a massive cult following, and when I saw it at a midnight screening years later, it was packed. Well, I've had stunt woman Lisa Hoyle on here a few times, who was involved in the Circus scene. You see her on screen in the Big Trapeze Act. Well, I have somebody else from the Circus here today celebrating the film's 25th anniversary. Yes, the Bazooka lady herself, Miss Christopher Callen. How do you do, Christopher?
Hello, 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 hello. So excited to celebrate Fear and Loathing with you.
Yes. Yeah, I saw it in theater, you know. I think a lot of people didn't catch how good this film was till after, but it's it's weird to me because that year the highest grossing film I think was Armageddon, and I'm like, what, you want to talk about a forgettable movie?
Well, I'm just surprised. I've been a working actress since I was 16 years old. And I've done some wonderful, incredible projects. Starred in 12 shows on Broadway prior to Fear and Loathing, and all kinds of things here before and mostly since Las Vegas, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. But I am astounded at this credit when people find out. Sometimes they recognize me, or it comes up in conversation when they go, oh my God, you were the mouthy waitress in Fear and Loathing. Oh my God, oh my God. There's such fandom surrounding this wonderful film. And I know we talked a little bit about how much we enjoy this film, and I totally agree. It is something that was just a blessing in my life that I was part of it. And one of the most exciting and creative events that I've been involved in on film. So it was a wonderful day. I'm a day player. I came in, I did my scene all day from 8:30 in the morning to 8 at night with Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. That was it. And then wonderful group of extras who were there. But, it was, I literally pinched myself driving off the Formosa lot over here, off of Santa Monica Boulevard in LA. And I remember just pinching myself and saying out loud, this is why I came to Los Angeles. Because I had just come from New York, not that soon before. New York. So anyway, yes, it was an amazing experience. And I'd love to give you a little, you interject with me, but I can tell you my experience of the day, which
Sure,
you
please.
want to hear about, like what happened. So first of all, I auditioned with the casting person. And it was in a room, but it was tape. I never met Gilliam. I never met anybody except the casting person. So I went in for the first audition. And before the audition, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really know about Fear and Loathing. It wasn't on my radar. So I read the book and I thought about this character. It didn't say anything except she was the waitress and she was really mouthy. And then there was a script. So anyway, I went in, I did my thing. I felt really good about it. I dressed the part, I had this really kind of low cut, whatever, orange dress. And I was just really kind of gave me attitude. And I felt good about it. I went home and sure enough, I got a call back. Once again, came back, just the casting person, just again, tape. And then they called and said I booked it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm over the moon. At that time, they didn't say that Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro would be doing the scene with me, or I would be doing it with them. So when I found that out, I was like, oh my God, this is just so much fun. And then it was my first time really here in Los Angeles that was like an AA film, like the budget was really big.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got a call from the costumer. And she said, we'd like to have a meeting with you about fitting. And I want to talk to you about your ideas about this character. And it was like, usually you don't have time for that. Usually you don't have the budget for that. And oh my God, I had 2 meetings with her. And the funny thing was, is that I kept thinking about Anne Margaret. And she said to me, the first thing she said, you know, I've come to kind of think of this woman as like Anne Margaret. We should dress her like
Wow.
Anne Margaret.
Wow.
So that's what we did in the leopard pants, and you don't really see that much, and the headdress, but anyway, that was our muse, was Anne Margaret. So that's a little insider that you wouldn't necessarily know. And so anyway, I had my call time. I got there. I had false nails that I wanted to put on, and I wanted to have eyelashes and whatever. And then they ushered me very quickly after I got into costume to makeup and hair. And then the word came, I don't know what was happening on the set, but they were going to shoot our scene. Like, okay, I guess they shifted the schedule. So I never got the false nails on that I wanted, and I never got the, the false eyelashes that I wanted to really look like Anne Margaret. But that's the way movies go, and especially if you're a day player, you know, I'm there to support everybody else, really. You know, bring my own thing to it, but I'm not the star of it. So anyway, got on the set and they brought us in, and I had no idea. They had totally recreated, and I'm sure that Ms. Hoyle has told you about that. So I think it was she, because we had the trapeze artists doing their
Oh
thing in the
yeah.
background the whole day. God bless them. Then we had, I guess, I don't know, 25 extras, all of whom were very Fellini-esque, or should I say Gilliam-esque,
Yeah.
because they were all over 80 years old, and they were with certain disabilities or deformities or whatever. And they were all kind of huddled around. And I have to say, I was brought up there by the first AD. I never met, to my knowledge, unless he was right there in the very beginning, but he never introduced himself, Terry Gilliam.
Mm-hmm.
But I was brought up there by the first AD, and he introduced me to Johnny Depp and Benicio.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of got a blocking, and we did a little rehearsing, always through the AD with his earpiece talking to Gilliam, as opposed in Video Village downstairs. And it was a scripted scene, as I said. But we did a few takes, and Benicio whispered to me, he said, I think we should just improvise in this thing. And I was like, okay. And I went back to Mark 1, and I literally had to tell myself, if this wasn't Johnny Depp and this wasn't Benicio del Toro, what would I do? And I thought, I would run the riot act. I would use every curse word I can even think of. And that's what I did. And nobody said cut, nobody said anything, and they just wanted me to keep doing that all day. And it was so much fun to improvise with those 2 amazing actors. And they give so much. Like when it was my turn to have my close-up, Johnny stood right by the camera for me. You know, they're such generous actors. And I want to tell a story about Johnny Depp real briefly.
Go ahead.
Interrupt me. But as I said, this is one of my favorite experiences, because
people want to hear your story. I'm
that's what I was hoping. I mean, if I was them, that's what I want to know, all the inside goings on. It was very hot because we kept shooting, and we're way up high in the studio, you know, huge like a hangar, and the heat is rising. And anyway, we took a short, cut, whatever. And I was standing right here where the AD was. And Johnny Depp came over and whispered to him. He said, "Do these people have water? All the extras. Do these people have any water?" And you could see they did. We'll get it right. We'll get it right away. And sure enough, bam, they brought coolers of water. And Johnny, he didn't grandstand because there was a lot of things going on. And he went around to each person and he said, "Would you like some water? Thanks for being here." And I'm just getting emotional because to me, that's a beautiful star. He's taking care of his set. He cares about other people, truly. And it wasn't grandstanding. I don't think anybody else saw him do this but me.
I've heard great things about Johnny Depp. He's always been at the top of people approach for autographs. I've heard wonderful things about Johnny Depp as a person.
So add that story too, because he's got his demons. He's had his publicity, but man, in my interaction with him, he was such a lovely gentleman and such a creative spirit. And for those who are interested in, kind of the craft of acting, whatever, I think it was interesting. We had our lunch break. That was our only break. And I said to him, because I heard they were watching dailies. And I wanted to see what else had been shot, and I said to him, "Johnny, are you going to dailies? I'm going to go." And he said, "Oh, no, 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 no. I never go to dailies." He says, "I never watch myself. He said, "I don't go to dailies because my job is already done. It's in the can. I can't change it. And that's the way I just like to just do my work on set and go." And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. And I have worked with a few other people too who feel that way. So I did go to dailies and I did have a good time and ate my lunch. And but Johnny is always will always have a very soft spot in my heart because of that. And I saw him at a SAG event, and it just so happened that it was like the people kind of parted like the waters, like Moses. And I was able to come up to him because everybody was around him and I wasn't going to, overdo it. But man, I told him, I said, I saw what he did on that set. And I said, "I will never forget that." I said, "Not only are you my favorite actor, but you're an amazing person." And he was so humble and just like, "Oh yeah, I know." But I wanted him to know that I knew, and it was so appreciated. So, I mean, here again, just a lovely man. And when I introduced myself to him, like, I was the waitress, he said, "Oh, yes, yes, hi, hi." He was just lovely. So anyway, so I continued. As I said, the set was spinning because it was authentic, like Circus.
Yeah.
And I was in 4-inch heels and I kept walking all day. And I was not tired by one iota because I was living my dream being there with those people that day. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Did you meet Lisa Hoyle?
No, I didn't meet anybody except Johnny and Benicio did, Del Toro. Although, I mean, some of the people I also talked to who were waiting between takes, but no, I didn't meet any of the other actors or performers.
She was doing the trapeze, but you see her close up when they catch that little baby doll there, and you see that close up
yes.
of her.
Oh my God, it's so bizarrely wonderful.
Yeah,
it's so bizarrely wonderful.
I've had her on here a number of times, so she's really cool.
We'll have to somehow meet because I think Fear and Loathing is kind of like that. I mean, it's like strangely, if you're in that, there is like a community in some way. It was such an experience, such a unique experience. So I've heard her name for years because she's so well known as a stunt performer,
Yeah. Yeah, she's awesome, and no, I say you dealt with Deb and Benicio a lot easier than poor Ellen Barkin did later in the film.
Yes. Yes, I mean, that's the funny thing in this business, too. I just a kind of a sidelight. There are people that I've worked with, and before I go to do the job, somebody will pull me
Mhm.
aside. It's like, oh, better watch out for so and so. And I'm like, okay, okay. And I appreciate the heads up. But I always try to go on set or go on, into rehearsal on stage thing, just seeing what is that person for me, and how.
Actually, I was referring from a character standpoint because
Yes.
they came in there and she was getting angry, and then Benicio blew up. I actually thought, and I kind of wish it happened because I love this kind of humor, but I actually thought he was going to smash that pie in her face.
Yeah.
And I was kind of waiting for it, because I love that kind of humor. But
Exactly. Exactly. Well, that was the thing that Terry Gilliam gave us so much leeway. I had never done a film with him before. I'd love to do another one with him, but he just casts well, and he lets them fly. And I'm sure there were preps, and I'm sure there were meetings that they had. And I know that Johnny lived with Hunter,
hmm
for months. And by the way, that's my surprise, one of my surprises.
hmm
So close your eyes.
okay,
And then I'm going to show you something. Hopefully the glare will not be too much. Let's see.
okay.
Okay, open your eyes.
Oh wow.
Does it come up backwards, the printing up?
No, it actually doesn't. It says we're your
Okay,
friends. We're not like the others.
right. And then he signed it right there.
Oh wow.
And
That
do
is
you
awesome.
know that he probably sent this to all, the actors who were involved? But it was such a surprise because it came a couple weeks after we wrapped, and it was just in a manila envelope that it didn't say from who or whatever. Hand done. If I had known who it was from, I probably would have saved the envelope too. But anyway, I opened it up, and I was just so moved that he would send me that he would include me in that. And
Absolutely.
uh, and he did, yeah, and he did this wonderful. We got the Gonzo, thing going on there. So yeah, so I'll show it again so everybody
Look
can
at
see it.
that. Look
There
at
it
that.
is.
That
Look
is
at that.
awesome.
Yeah. So it's something that I'll certainly treasure forever. And I would be remiss if I didn't, if you don't mind. This is not my book, but I'm in the book, and it just came
Mhm.
out. It's on Amazon. It is called The Cinderellas of 53rd Street.
Wow.
And I'm one of them.
Stories from the legendary rehearsal club. Okay.
This is a rehearsal club that when I was a young actress and I left San Francisco after getting my drama degree, and I paid my way through school being an actor there in San Francisco, which was unheard of, but I did.
Uh-huh.
And then I went to New York, and it's funny because we were talking about moving earlier, you and I
Mhm.
knew one person in New York, one, and she lived there because this was just for women who were pursuing some kind of arts career and had no place to stay.
Oh.
So I applied through my friend who got me a room here, and I shared it with two other young women who were pursuing their acting dreams. And it was quite an unusual situation. It was right across from the CBS building on 53rd Street near the Museum of Modern Art, incredible area. And this was 1967, 68, 67, summer of 67.
That would have been 5 years before I was born.
I believe it. I've been in this business a long time. But I sold my VW Bug in San Francisco for $300. I took 150, bought a one-way ticket, put the other in my pocket, and then I arrived. And here, even there, it was a good deal. Even then, it was a good deal. It was $33 a week to live in the room with, shared room with, and to have 2 meals a day in the cafeteria downstairs. And because of that, I didn't have to worry about where I was going to live. And people shared information. The girls here were just so amazing. Like I needed a job right away. I only had $150, right? And I had paid a lot of that for a taxi to get to the place. So they got me a hosting job. They told me about the hosting job, and I got that like in the next 3 days. And then within 8 weeks, I was in my first Broadway show, and I never stopped. I did 13 of them, as I said. And I starred in 13 of them. So then I was on a soap opera there, One Life to Live, and all the commercials and things like that. But because of that, and so they asked me to write the story, which will be in the audiobook, not in this book. However, because I couldn't get the deadline. I was doing 3 movies at one time this last spring, March, whatever. But they were kind enough to say, we still want pictures of you in it and talk about you as a resident. Some of the people who had lived here was Carol Burnett, Blythe Danner. She was there when I was there. Marilyn Monroe had lived there at one time when she was in New York.
Yes.
And so these are the stories of women in various decades of what they were doing and how they got to the rehearsal club. It's really interesting. It's really a backstage story. But anyway, here's my page. And I'm there in the desert song there. And then I'm on Fiddler on the Roof, played one of the daughters. And I was in the original company, took over for Betty Buckley in 1776. And this was the last one I did, which was Lend Me a Tenor on Broadway, which is a big Tony smash. And I took over for Tova Felcha on that. So anyway, you can find this on Amazon.
Nice.
Enough with the publicity.
Oh, know what? I think that's fabulous. It kind of put me in mind of the school that's in Fame,
I think this should be a series, actually. I think they wrote a big article just prior to this book coming out. It's only been out 2 weeks, but the New York Times wrote an article about the rehearsal club. Coincidentally, it was in the ether or something. So they wrote about it. And if anybody's out there who is a producer for television or streaming, I think it is a series because it is. It's like Fame meets what? The Gossip Girls? I don't know.
Whatever have you, it works,
Yeah,
it works.
and it was a movie. Speaking of movies, in the 30s, there was a movie called Stage Door.
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
It's a very famous movie. That was based on the rehearsal club. And they actually had the set. If you watch the movie, the set is like the brownstone we lived in, because they show particularly the parlor area, because that was the only place that men could go. Those who wanted to go and have a date, they had to wait for us down there. And then we shared one telephone for 45 girls, if you can imagine this. So they would call up, like, Christopher, there's a call for you. It was very cinematic living.
There you go. There you go. Getting into some of your background, did you always want to get into performing arts?
No, I was going to be a nun. People can't believe it. I was raised Catholic, went to Catholic school for 12 years. I wanted to do something to save the world, make a difference the way many artists want to.
Yeah.
And my parents, my mother was in a very famous dance troupe, Ruth St. Denis, Ted Shawn. They were very bohemian. They were very out there. They were very modern. They were the precursors to Martha Graham. She studied with them in the 40s. And so they were doing things like modern dances to Native American myth, and they brought all these Native American people in, and lots of my mother's friends were drummers and jewelry makers and from the Native community, and that also impinged on me growing up because she was so into all that, and later on she became an activist for human rights for the Native cause, and was very involved in that. So anyway, I'm getting off on that. My mother was a dancer. My father was a writer director. He never quite fulfilled his vision and had other jobs along the way, but they were both very creative. And so music and acting and art, and my mother's a beautiful painter as well. So anyway, I grew up in this. I don't remember not singing. I don't remember not acting. I mean, that's what I grew up in. So it was very natural. And I began performing out of all that. My mother taught dancing, all these community shows and things, which my father usually directed and wrote and put together. I don't know if you ever heard of the Lennon sisters.
No.
They were on Lawrence Welk. And my father put them in a show here in Los Angeles where we were at St. Mark's Church. And the oldest one was dating Mr. Welk's oldest son. And he said, he got on the phone and he said, after hearing them sing, he said, Dad, you have to hire these girls. And within 1 week, they were on television and they've been very, very famous. They're in Branson now and all kinds of things. So anyway, that's my home life. So art was part of it, but I always did it. I never thought of it as a career. When I was 11, they took me to see My Fair Lady at the Shrine Auditorium here. And I do remember looking down and thinking, they get to sing and act and dance and travel. I could do that. And so there probably really was the moment at 11 that I said that, but I got off a little bit thinking I would be a nun, and I pursued looking into that. I picked the order that I was going to join. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to save the world as a social worker, because they worked with the homeless, that kind of nun, I thought I better learn something about the world. I better go. I've been in Catholic school. I'm going to go to college at San Francisco State and get a degree in social work, right? First week, I'm there. The assignment was to go to the cafeteria and watch who eats with who. And I went, what does this have to do with helping people? So I changed my major in the first week and I went to the drama department and I never looked back. I thought,
there you go.
You know, I was very religious at the time. I thought, no, I think God is telling me that's where my talents lie. That's where I should go. So
there you go. Yeah,
that's what I decided to do.
Well, I'm hoping God tells me what I'm supposed to do.
Well, I know.
I know. So, I got some decisions to make as well.
I'm definitely still spiritual, but I kind of look at things a little differently than when I was in Catholic school.
Oh, I was brought up Protestant. I still believe in the Bible. I'm Christian, and yep, I still say my prayers, but everybody's different. I have everybody of all walks of life on the show, and there's not a whole lot of Christian content in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but boy, it's a beautiful film to look at. I'll tell you that. It really captures, like Boogie Nights, it captures the 70s so well.
Absolutely.
And I've seen films fail doing that. They say they're set somewhere, but you don't feel that you're there. And this one here,
you more having lived through the 70s. And I think that's one of the parts of the magic of the film and the whole the book as well. And it was such an allegory for the political times and the culture of the times, and a really interesting time to be alive. I do reflect on my life here with so many decades, and I I can only say that. I mean, each decade is like, wow, it's interesting to be alive. And certainly lately, these last even few years, it's certainly interesting to be alive.
Did
So,
Did you
yeah.
see the previous film, Where the Buffalo Roam, where Bill Murray and Peter Boyle played the two leads?
No, I've heard of that title, but I didn't really even know exactly what it was or no,
The only
no.
scene of repeat from Fear and Loathing is where they pick up the hitchhiker. That seems to be the only repeat scene. I think Fear and Loathing is a better movie, but Where the Buffalo Roam was definitely worth checking out, But you know,
Definitely. Who directed that? Do you recall?
off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay, I'll definitely look that up.
Yeah,
Well,
but
how long have you been a movie buff? I mean, obviously you love movies.
I've been reviewing movies since 1996, and I started a show at
What were you, 10
CHSR.
years old?
No, I was born in 72.
Okay.
72. But basically right around where the storyline of this starts. Um,
Mhm.
then I got a volunteer doing a show at CHSR on campus here, the radio station. And in 2015, I started doing the podcast because uh, through a former acquaintance, I ended up with an interview with Tommy Wiseau from The Room, and it was like, who else can I do this with? And I've done now over 730, I think now.
Yes.
And
What is your criteria? Because you said earlier, and forgive me, I mean, now I'm going to be following you and listening. What you said that you sometimes interview people from all kinds of echelons and all kinds of walks of life. Tell me a little bit about that. What is it? Just because they're interesting people, you say?
you know what? I interview a lot of people from movies and music, but sometimes, people catch me like authors I've had on. But I mean, I had one of my coworkers from the hospital on here just because one night she reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be part of her online makeup thing called Pharmacy. That's with an F, Farmasi. It's Pharmacy. And I looked it up, and there's a lot of women's products on there and whatnot. But she said, "Oh no, there's a men's section." So I ordered some body wash on there, and I found out that I could get some meal supplement and stuff. But I had her on here to do an interview because I thought, oh, you know what? I worked with you at the hospital, but I didn't know this side. Why don't you come on and talk about this?
Yeah.
And I had her come on, and I had somebody at the hospital tell me that the whole thing was a sham. Whole thing was a sham. Well, it's one thing to say something works, and it's another thing to prove it. She went on there looking all plain Jane. She had the makeup up, and by the end of the interview, she talked and she put the makeup on. She demonstrated everything, and she looked like she belonged on a magazine cover by the end of it.
That's great.
So
That is great.
anybody that says it's a sham, I'm like, nope. Right there. It's right there in the video part of the Zoom. And that was just an example. I mean, I don't know how many
Excuse me for
hits.
interrupting, but do you have these archived? Like I could check that one out. Okay.
That one right now is in my 2023 list, but right now they're unlisted because when I started at the station, when I started doing these, my former station manager told me, when you do an interview, don't put it up public right away. Save some for a rainy day.
Hmm.
And
Is it
COVID
is
turned
is hers saved for a rainy day?
COVID, yeah, hers is.
Okay.
COVID turned out to be the rainy day
Oh,
because when COVID happened in 2020, I had about 30 people waiting to come on my show, and I had no access to the station. It was Nancy McLaughlin from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, who told me about Zoom. And it was an associate producer, somebody that I knew in the UK, Carrie Yates, who got me hooked up on Zoom. So after Zoom, it was like, I don't have to go to the station to do these. I can do these right in my apartment.
Right, right.
So much easier. Now that interview with my coworker, I could send that to you if you want to check that
Oh,
out.
well, if it isn't an imposition, that would be
No,
lovely. Because
no,
we talked
she
about
she she would be delighted, But that's
it.
an example of somebody that's not in the industry that I had on. And
Well,
yeah, sometimes it's just like where the story is. I don't want to criticize other podcasters, but a lot of people do this for money. I don't. I do this for fun. But a lot of people, it's about hits and likes and
yeah.
views, and those are nice. Don't get me wrong, those are nice. But sometimes, it's just fun to have a good story and have somebody on that might not have a voice anywhere else to do it.
Well, you're inspiring me. The reason I'm kind of having a hidden agenda and asking you because I've always wanted to have a podcast, but I decided that if I were to do a podcast, it would be something I probably would call it interesting people.
Hmm.
And that is what it would be because I'm so lucky. I don't know. I've always been able to talk to anybody. And in my life has been magical. I've I've had state dinners at the White House. I've gone to ambassadorships. I've met, sort of the royalty sometimes or the high politicians. And then I was on board members for a homeless organization here. And one of the most impinging conversations I ever had was with a woman who had a young 6-year-old boy. And we sat on the curb and just, shared a hamburger. And so I love life like you do, obviously. And I just thought it would be so great to have, I mean, literally, I talked to the guy who picks up my garbage, and it was like, what an interesting guy. We could, like,
Why don't you do this?
okay, will you be my mentor?
I'll
Put you
do
on
what
the
I
spot.
can. I
Just
could do
knowing
what
you
I
is
can.
enough because I'm sure you're very busy between everything you're doing. But anyway, you have inspired me.
I will do what I can to help you out.
Okay,
Yeah.
because
I
we have
mean,
that similar interest in stories. I love the way you said it.
yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
everybody has a story.
Hmm.
Usually, I mean, I guess there's some there's stories and that is, but there sure are a lot of stories around that are very interesting, and you would never know. You'd walk past them and you'd never have a clue that that's their story.
Yep. Nope, but I didn't even know because this was just somebody who was a coworker. It's like, oh, this is interesting. Come on and promote this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
it's really, yeah, exactly. That's great. Well,
I've
I'm
had a
very impressed, and that you've been doing this and you do it from the heart, and that's where the most success comes from, I think, always. So,
hmm I wanted to ask you about a couple other films. Now I haven't seen
yeah.
these. I haven't seen these, but I looked the trailer up. So I actually hadn't heard of these, but I looked the trailer up and I thought, well, these sound interesting. S&M Sally.
Yes, that's another very interesting thing. I auditioned for this probably because it scared the bejesus out of me.
I
But
bet.
no, it was just I thought, oh, it's a comedy. It could be fun, to play a dominatrix. That's what they.
You know
Well,
what? I've had a dominatrix on here before. I had Tori
I mean, I'm not
Terranova.
into that. I'm not into that. I knew nothing really, and I thought,
Well,
and
Tori
so
Terranova was in the movie Everybody Wants Some. And she played a dominatrix at this party scene in it. And I had her on the show because I loved that movie. It was set in 1980, speaking of something that looked like the time. But she said, it's strange. I get cast as dominatrixes all the time since that movie. And we just kind of had to laugh about it. And
oh, well, thank God I haven't been typecast on that. But I really love the people involved. The woman who is the writer star, she's just a lovely gal, and they had it all set up for me to do research. I mean, they had me meet with the dominatrix. They had somebody else, who does it, who has the whip and how to do it correctly.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it was like I got quite an education.
And
And
what about,
strangely enough, that
yeah,
is one of the things that I love about being an actor, because every project, will have something that you're going to learn something about life differently, because you're always playing someone who has a different life than you, but you're going to create that person, find that person. And I always believe in trying to be as authentic as possible. So when I did 1776 on Broadway, I learned more about this country and the Constitution. I swear it was better than any history class I had ever taken. And it stays with you. And the same thing, like S&M Sally. Okay, live and let live. Good, fine, and I know a little bit about that now. And anything you mention, you learn the history, or you learn the culture a little bit more of what it's all about. It's really a beautiful, I'm so grateful that, forgive me, I'll whisper, that I didn't become a nun, that I'm so happy to be an actor. I'm so happy to be an actor. I thank my lucky stars every day, because I've had the ups, I've had the highs where I was invited to the White House and all that. And I've had publicity, but I've also had the lows, because there are times that there have been some harder times, but I never gave up, and I always continued, and I was always, knock wood, still able to make a living as an actor, which again is just a blessing. I know there's so many people out there who have that dream and find the barriers, they become too much for them or whatever. So I'm just so grateful. And I want to be like Betty White. I want to just keep acting until I drop,
there you go. Yep.
Yeah. So
What about Burning Shadow?
that was very interesting. I loved working on that. Mr. Nahon, the director,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I got the job. It wasn't really, what do they call it when your family patron, not patronism, whatever it is, that word that
Mm-hmm.
they're always throwing around now because of all the second generation stars.
Yeah.
Um, on the lovely street that I live in here in Los Angeles, there is a terrific family from Paris. They're French. They were
Mm-hmm.
in the French film industry there. They're producers as well as other things in the entertainment industry. And I just knew them as friends, and they knew I was an actor. And, they had been here about 2 years. And then one day they said to me, we're working on a project. We think there's a role there for you. And I said, oh,
Uh-huh.
really? I said, and they said, would you like to audition? I said, absolutely. So I auditioned for it and I got it. And that was a lot of fun. Again, it was a very fast shoot. But here again, I didn't realize that I'd be working with the twins, who became pretty famous there for the Queen's Gambit, um, and all kinds of things. And we shot literally down the street here on Hollywood Boulevard at a real motel that had the sign water beds and porno movies available. So
Yep.
so it was fun being able to play the owner, the disgruntled owner. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So lots of good things. I've always had great experiences, you know.
Well,
Here.
do you have a preference between film, stage, and TV? Because I know you got a lot of TV credits as well.
Yeah. I've in the last, I'd say the last even 5 years, including COVID, where we were, shut down, where we didn't do anything for 6 months or whatever. Um, I've been doing movies, independent movies, and I really love that because the stories are so interesting, especially with the independents, but and commercials, but and not that much TV. although I did a Christmas movie for TV, you can find
Mhm.
it. Secret Santa, that was fun. That was great. So I do, but I love movies. I just love movies, and I'd like to do more of the A films that like Fear and Loathing, but sometimes the most satisfying ones are the smaller ones. And I've got quite a few in the pipeline that are going to be coming out soon. And but I like I mean TV now is so wonderful, especially streaming. Like my favorite is Succession. I'm so addicted. And I know the woman who plays the what would you call her? It's Jay Cameron. Uh, she plays. I don't think she's a lawyer on it. I mean, but she's one of the main. Other than the family, she's like the main one. I
Mhm.
forgot what her character's name is now in the series. But anyway, she's the one they wanted to fire, but then the father died, so she's sticking around. And she was in Lend Me a Tenor with Me on Broadway. She
Okay.
played the ingenue on that. So it's
Mhm.
so great to see her. And that's another thing, as probably people have said to you, I love it when I turn on the TV or I see, oh my God, that's so and so. I work with them. Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's kind of a tribe. So I'm not answering your question. I like all of those things for different reasons.
Mhm.
And when, like now, I'm going to be doing something live, it's an industrial for a human resources organization that's worldwide. And it'll be done in Las Vegas, and I'm going to be down there. Um, it's a convention, 75th anniversary, and I will be performing this scripted show. I'll be playing a 91-year-old, and our audience will be in the convention center. We're doing it for 17,500 people. So it'll be like I'll get to be Miley Cyrus for the day, you know?
There you go.
So I'm looking forward to that. The largest um, audience I'd performed for up until now has been the St. Louis Muni Opera Company, and they have a big amphitheater in St. Louis, and it's great because they have the tickets for the high seats are just like pennies, evidently. I hope still they were when I was there, and that's 12,000. So all these are different experiences. I like movies because you can be so real, you can be so subtle in telling the story, but the impact of being there with live human beings and we're exchanging that energy is something very special as well.
Absolutely. Do you have any charities that you want to plug and promote on here?
Oh my goodness, how did you read my mind? I am a spokesperson for and love. It's the Citizens Committee on Human Rights.
Mhm.
And what that is that it deals with psychiatric abuse. We know that's an area that sometimes bad people get involved in, and there's some things that are going on. And it was actually started by a psychiatrist, Mr. Assad. And it's just like a watchdog for that. And I'm very proud to say there have been some hospitals, especially where children were involved, that have been shut down because of the investigations that were made. And just this is just my own personal thing of what I think is just over drugging, especially our children, that I don't think is the way to go.
Yeah.
So, so you can find cchr.com, and it's a very worthwhile, beautiful organization, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely. It is a great cause. Well, you
Yeah.
know what? It was wonderful having you come on here. this evening or afternoon for you, and talk about this, and celebrate the 25th anniversary. Heck, can you believe it's been 25 years? I got the book here too, and I got another version of this too, stashed here somewhere. It's like a thick 2-disc set.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that one, but yeah,
Oh gee,
awesome.
I don't know. I got here somewhere, stashed away, but uh,
Do they count it as the 25th as the day that it's released into the world? Is that to become the date on which they released it? Makes it today is the day that makes the film the 25th anniversary?
I don't know. I don't know
I'll have
whether
to look
this
into
is.
that.
Yeah, I know I saw it in the theater in 1998. That's when I saw it, and so let me
That sounds
see.
about right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was when I saw it. Because shouldn't take me
Yeah.
long to find it here. Yeah, Fear and Loathing, Las Vegas. Let's see what it says for a release date. It was May or June, I think. Um, okay, United States, it says May 22nd, 1998. Oh, we're not far.
Yep.
There you go.
There you go. That's it. We'll plant the flag on that date.
Yeah, I mean, it had its United States premiere in New York City in May 19th. So, and then the 22nd, it got re-released wide. There you go. And it was at the
Wonderful.
Cannes Film Festival in France,
Yes.
May
That was
15th.
one regret because there was talk like I could have gone if I really had gotten my ducks in a row. And I realized that would have been the time to go to Cannes. And I never did. And then I was in Cannes on another job. And I thought I was walking around. I was like, yeah, you didn't take the boat. You should have done everything you could to just get over there. But anyway, wasn't meant to be. And I'm fine. And I did get
Well,
to
you are in the movie, so I mean, look, you're still part of it. So, you know,
yeah. So I got to keep an ear to the ground as to what else might be going on as well. Yeah, it's wonderful.
you ever get to do the conventions?
I would love to do conventions.
I
I would
love
love
doing
to.
those.
Anybody
Yeah.
want to ask me? Please do.
Yeah, because I can't see why this wouldn't have people, uh, this would grab some attention. I know that.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great convention thing because there are so many fans, as we said. And
Mm-hmm.
you're one of them, and that's so lovely.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I'm glad you're my second guest from the film on here, and I'm very happy to have you and happy to celebrate Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas for its 25th anniversary. Before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Not at all. Yes, what would
Just
you like me to say or
just
do? Or
just state your name and say
yeah.
we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas,
Hmm.
and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Callen, and we're here celebrating the 25th anniversary of the film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. And I'm here with Greg Gilbert, the wonderful host of the Python Paradise podcast. My honor and pleasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? If you got more projects coming up in the future, I'd love to have you back.
Thank you so much. I'd love to stay in touch with you. I feel like I've met a fellow tribe member, really. And I just feel like we're friends. And I'm sure that's one reason you're so successful because I can see you. You just made me feel so at home. Thank you so much for
Well,
this.
I'm really glad. I'm really glad. I'm so honored to have you come on here too, and so this has been an absolute delight.
Likewise. Bye for now.
All right. Bye bye and God bless.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.